Russia launched a major attack on Ukraine overnight, the largest since the start of the war, setting a record number of drones and ballistic missiles in a 7-hour assault. The strikes came shortly after Russia's leader, Vladimir Putin, spoke to U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump says he's disappointed in Russia.
I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about that. No, I didn't make any progress with him today at all.
Earlier this week, Trump scaled back military support for Ukraine over concerns that U.S. stockpiles are getting too low. Yuliya Kovaliv is Ukraine's ambassador to Canada. Thank you for making the time today.
Thank you for having me today.
Last night's strikes are being called the largest aerial attack since the war began more than 3 years ago. Can you just give us a sense of what the latest is on the effects?
Indeed, as we are seeing already since the start of the full-scale invasion, and especially within the last 3 months. 3 months ago, actually, Ukraine said that we are ready for to join the proposal from U.S. for the unconditional ceasefire. What's happened since then is the increased Russian attacks, especially on civilians, on the cities. And the last night attack in Kyiv was actually one of the hardest attacks. Just imagine that was over 550 drones and different types of the missiles, and majority of them were precisely targeting Kyiv, targeting civilian buildings, targeting schools, targeting hospitals. There were people, children sitting in the subway stations for 16 hours. So 16 hours in a row, from the late evening till almost 8 a.m. in the morning, there was the alarm and the people were going to the basements. And unfortunately, we have now the 23 people who have been injured and one who lost their life because of the Russian brutal attack. And what's happening is also it's not the first attack this week. There was another massive attack on the 1st of June against Kyiv was target. We see Russia increasing the number of these attacks. And I think it's a pure demonstration that actually Putin does not want any peace. Putin continues to wage the war.
So let me ask you a little bit more about the timing that you point to. There is a senior Ukrainian official who has said that, in fact, there's a clear connection between the phone calls that are happening between Trump and Putin, and even saying that Putin is treating these conversations as, quote, an opportunity to publicly humiliate the other side's reputation, meaning the Americans, saying every phone call between the U.S. and Putin inevitably results in massive demonstrative shelling of Kyiv with enormous destruction. What do you think about the relationship between those calls and what is happening to the people?
We actually saw many times there is some kind of a Russian craziness on so-called symbolism. And we all remember when Canada was hosting G7 meeting in Kananaskis, specifically in the first day of the meeting in Kananaskis, Putin once again launched this massive attack over Kyiv. We had at that time, there was a big 5-story apartment building that just, flipped. And there were many people who lost, over 20 people who lost their lives because of the direct strike. We see what's happened this night. We saw what happened also another attack around the summit in NATO. I think this is the pure kind of a demonstration of Russian impunity and their desire actually to continue the war. It's growing. Unfortunately, the Russian capability of drone production and the ability to launch these attacks, it's not decreasing.
And the call between President Trump and Putin resulted in the President Trump saying that there is no progress. So you say impunity is increasing. Trump does not seem to be getting anywhere. And yet it seems that pressure from the United States is in many ways your best hope. What would you call upon the U.S. President to do to better help Ukraine at this moment?
I think, this is our common call to all of our partners and allies. the first thing is the need to continue the military support, and especially the air defense, because this is the shield to protect Ukrainian people, Ukrainian children who are spending their long nights in the bomb shelters. And I'm really grateful for Canada and for Prime Minister Mark Carney, who announced a G7 meeting in Kananaskis, where President Zelensky was there participating, the additional package of the military support to Ukraine. We're really grateful that Canada is a steadfast supporter. Another important thing is the increase the pressure on Russia in terms of the sanctions. We see the decisive actions from our European partners. We see the decisive actions of Canada, of United Kingdom, and of course, we would welcome the strong sanctions from US, especially those sanctions which will target the main source of Russian revenue, that is still the export of oil and gas and the tanker fleet.
You call for these things, and yet at the very same time, the United States in particular has halted the shipment of some weapons to Ukraine as it, in its view, reassesses what it is able to share. How much more difficult is that making things?
I think, with regards to the military support from United States, today President Zelensky had a productive phone call with President Trump, and there will be also a follow-up Teams meeting on the specific issue of the some part of the military support, and of course on the air defense, because the reality is that there is only kind of physically one type of air defense, which is the US-made Patriot system. They can effectively intercept Russian ballistic missiles, and they are of a great importance for us, as the NASAMS, which is another level of the air defense, which Canada procured for Ukraine, and it continues now to protect civilians in Ukraine, so we are grateful for that.
I want to ask you in closing specifically about landmines. This is, of course, an issue of particular concern to Canada. We had Lloyd Axworthy, former Foreign Affairs Minister, on the program yesterday, one of the driving forces behind the Ottawa Treaty, the global convention to stop landmines. Ukraine, some other European countries are moving to pull out of that treaty, citing the threat from Russia. When I asked Lloyd Axworthy about this, he said he's very saddened to hear the news, that he feels that Ukraine is making a mistake, even though he does, he says, understand President Zelensky's dilemma. He says that this could lead to a snowball effect where we will see the return of these weapons more broadly in the world, and they are simply going to take people's lives at a time that is not intended. It's a move in the wrong direction. What would you say to that?
Of course, the world is moving not in the right direction, and we saw that Russia's attack on Ukraine was the complete breach of all the international law. And the reality is we are fighting with the country who comply with many aspects of the international law, is fighting with the one hand tied under the back, where Russia is not a part of convention or of the Ottawa Convention, and never was. And this is the matter of just physical protection of our land, and in the war, unfortunately, you need to make those hard choices, and you need to be able to protect. And unfortunately, this is also for us the way to protect our territories. But I would also like to mention that Ukraine was not the first one, and that was the ongoing assessment from our side. It was not the easy and quick decision. There are many of those countries, especially who are close to Russian border, and they understand this threat.
But
and of course, I would wish we all wouldn't have this discussion. But when you're seeing what Russia is doing in terms of the attacks, and just feeling I don't think it's worth to judge about the complexity of this kind of decision sitting in a peaceful place. And the hard decisions when you are in the wartime being made just with the one particular goal, to protect the country and to protect the people.
Ukrainian Ambassador Yuliya Kovaliv, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.